Okay, so today we're going to look at recording MIDI. So first I'm going to give some introduction to what MIDI is. MIDI stands for the Music Instrument Digital Interface protocol, which was created in 1983 to standardize the way that electronic musical instruments actually communicate with each other. Today it's used extensively in the industry, from mobile phone ringtones to major label albums. It's used everywhere. Even for full-on film orchestras as well. So it really is something which has stood the test of time and which we use for creating music quickly and easily. So MIDI sequences can be compared to the old piano rolls you used to get on pianos that will play themselves, where you had the perforated paper rolls which played the notes by having punched holes in the piano rolls, which then tell the piano which notes to play, and MIDI events do a very similar thing. They contain note information such as pitch and velocity, and to produce sound, MIDI events need to be routed to a software instrument, in Logic specifically, or to an external MIDI instrument if you're using one externally. We'll be looking at using software instruments inside Logic today. And there are two basic types of MIDI events. There are MIDI note events that trigger musical notes, and MIDI continuous controller or MIDI CC events that control parameters such as volume, pan or pitch bend. For example, when you hit a C3 note on a MIDI keyboard controller, the keyboard sends a note on MIDI event to say that the note has played. The note on event contains the pitch of the note, C3, and the velocity of the note, which indicates how fast the key was struck, measuring how hard the musician played the note. So these are the ways that we record MIDI, and by connecting the MIDI keyboard controller to Logic, you can use Logic to route the MIDI events to a virtual software instrument, or to create an external MIDI instrument. So the instrument reacts to the note on event by producing the note, for example C3, and the velocity typically determines how loud the note sounds, how loud a note is pressed in reality. So we're going to look at recording MIDI. So in Logic, the techniques used to record MIDI are very similar to the techniques you use to record audio. When MIDI keyboard controllers are connected to your computer and the drivers are properly installed, you can use that keyboard to record MIDI in Logic. Logic automatically routes all incoming MIDI events to the record-enabled software instrument or external MIDI track. If you don't have a MIDI keyboard controller, if you press the caps lock key, then this image will appear. This is the Mac keyboard as a polyphonic MIDI controller keyboard. A representation of a computer keyboard is displayed, showing the letter keys assigned to musical notes. The number keys allow you to choose the octave range, so going up and down on here. And the lower row of keys let you choose the note velocities. So down here we can choose the velocity of the note, and you can see, for those of you who understand music theory, we've got performance directions notated on here, so piano, 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 mezzo piano, etc., which indicate how intensely a note is played. So Logic basically allows us to control all of the notes using this, but normally you would use a MIDI keyboard controller, which you'll have right in front of you with the Oxygen M Audio device. Okay, so you can also get rid of that by pressing caps lock again. Keep in mind that you may need to disable the caps lock button keyboard to access some of Logic's key commands. So, for example, if I'm going into record, I'll have to get rid of that first and go into record before I start recording MIDI, and then press it again quickly to access the keyboard, if I was using this keyboard, but you won't be. I will be throughout this, and you'll see me using it, but you'll need to use your MIDI controller keyboard because it's better, quite frankly. So, to record a MIDI performance, triggering a software instrument, you need to create a software instrument track. And then you need to insert an instrument plugin or choose a channel strip setting from the library before you go into record. Excuse me. So if you can go to your Logic 9 files, which is on the CMS main directory on the shared drive, in the resources folder, in the Logic 9 files, and then the lessons folder. So I'll go through that path again. So it's in CMS folder, and in CMS you've got a folder that says resources, and inside that folder there's another folder that says Logic 9 files, and inside that another folder which is named lessons, and in there I'd like you to open the 04 rock song project. Okay, as soon as you've done that, remember, as always, we need to go straight to File, Save As, and we need to save our project in the correct location. And you will be able to see over here, it will say CMS and then a number, and if you click on it, then under this first set of directories in the first column, you will see an image that looks like a speaker. I don't have it on here because I'm not attached to the CMS drive at the moment, but you'll be able to see it. We've looked at it before, and if you click on there, then inside that shared folder you will see save your work in here, and then your course folder, and inside that course folder you should have already set up your own individual folder, which is where you'll be saving everything, including these lessons or the versions of them that you're making, and everything that you do goes in there. Okay, so you probably know that already, but just in case you haven't got that set up, now's the time to do it. And you can go to new folder here and just create a new folder if you haven't got a name for yourself, a name for your folder already. Okay, so great. Once you've done that, you will see something like this. Okay, the project has a single audio track, which you can see here, which with a drum loop, which will provide a timing reference to record your new instrument. Okay, so at the top of the track list, we're going to click the New Tracks button, which is this button here with the plus sign. Or we can press Command Option N, which is the Option button is also the Alt button. So Command Alt N, or we can press New Tracks here. So the New Track dialog button opens, the dialog box rather, and we're going to make sure that the number of tracks is set to 1. The type is a software instrument, like I've got here, and we're going to make sure that Open Library is selected, so that our library opens when we start this new track. Okay, we're going to click Create. Okay, so a software instrument track is created, as we can see over here, and it's automatically record enabled because we can see that R is lit red. It says Record Ready. The library also opens over here in your media area, displaying software instrument channel strip settings. Okay, so we can choose these. By default, audio tracks have a blue icon and audio regions are blue. Software instruments have a green icon and MIDI regions are green. Okay, so we're going to choose a channel strip from the library. So for this exercise, we're going to choose 05 keyboards, 01 electric piano, and then the Suitcase V2 track down here. And if you don't have that, you can choose the Tynes electric piano, or any piano sounds that that suits you. Okay, but if you've got the Suitcase V2 track, choose that, and you'll see already that the little logo appears for that in my track header over here on the left. Okay, so in the inspector, the software instrument, the inspector's over here, as you'll remember. The software instrument channel strip loads the necessary plugins that are needed for that. And if we just disclose these triangles here, we will see those. Here it is, Suitcase V2 channel strip, which loads these particular plugins. Okay, these are the plugins, and we see down here our software instrument track. Okay. So, if we select that, it's in there. Okay, it's under the electric piano set. It's a default setting within that. Okay, but that tells us what our input is. That's the input is where we're getting our sound from. That's our channel strip. Okay, so while audio channel strip settings contain only processing plugins, software instrument channel strips also contain the software instrument plugin, which is down here. On the audio, it's just the audio input, okay, where it's taking audio input from. But for software instrument tracks, it's taking audio input from the software instrument plugin, okay, and that's its name, and that's where it belongs, in the input/output section. This is our input, this is our output section. All channels will go to the stereo out, which is why they'll always see stereo out here. Okay, so we're going to place notes on our MIDI keyboards, and I'm going to place them on my controller. And you should hear the electric piano, and in the transport MIDI, the transport bar's MIDI in display, which is down here. You will see the notes that are being played. So if you play a chord, it displays the chord. So I'll just give you an example of that. I'm going to bring up my keyboard controller here. I can play notes. And you can see them appearing down here in the MIDI note region. And there's a chord. You can see I'm playing a D minor chord there, an E minor chord there, an F major chord. So it tells you the notes, what octave they're in, and it tells you what chord you're playing as well. Okay, so you're ready to record, but first we're going to open the piano roll editor so we can see the MIDI notes appear as we record them. And the easiest way to get into that is pressing P on our keyboards. Okay, and that opens the piano roll editor. I'm just going to raise the level of that a bit so we can see it. Okay, so we're going to go back to the beginning of the project. Okay, by pressing return twice, or going down to our display down here in the transport bar and going back to the beginning. So, what we're going to do now is we're going to click the record button in the piano roll editor, or in the transport bar, or we can just press R on our keyboard. What's going to happen is the playhead is going to jump back one bar before bar 1 to give us a 1 bar count in. I can change that if I hold down the record button and go to record settings. I can change that, and I like a 2 bar count in. It gives me a little bit of time. Also in here I can decide whether I want the metronome to be playing while recording, and if I do, I might only want it to click while during the count-in, so I don't hear it when I'm actually recording my main part, and I can close that. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to record, and when we see the playhead come past the start of bar 1, we're going to play some notes. So we're going to play a simple bass line in an 8th note pattern. Okay, just anything at all. We're going to record more notes in the later on in the region. Okay, so when you play the first MIDI note, a new MIDI region with a red halo is created on the record enabled track. The region's length constantly updates to include the most recent MIDI event played. Okay, so and the MIDI notes will then appear in the piano roll editor as you record them. Okay, so here we go. I'm going to press record, and then I'm going to go select a caps lock to go into my MIDI keyboard controller. So here we go. Okay, so there we go, and it stops immediately where I've left that. Okay, so now we can see if I click that region in the arrange area and I press Z, it will zoom in to see that that region there, and we can see that these lines represent the notes and the lengths of those notes, and we can see that mirrored down here in the piano roll editor. Okay, so we can go back and have a listen to that. Okay. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is if we don't like that performance, we can always undo it. So if we're not happy with the performance, we can undo it by pressing Command Z and try it again. And we can obviously just record that again if we want. Okay. So if we're not happy with the timing of the MIDI performance, you can correct the timing of the notes. We do this. This is a process we called quantization. Okay. So to quantize a MIDI region, you choose a grid resolution from the quantize menu in the region parameter box, which is in over here in your inspector. So region parameter box, and we can see the quantize there. We can set it to whatever we need to, whatever grid resolution we want. So in the following exercise, we're going to quantize the recording we made in the previous exercise to correct its timing so that the piano notes are in sync with the drums. So make sure that the new MIDI region is selected, which I've done there. We don't want any other region selected, just that one. But that you shouldn't have any other one selected. If you have, and deselect all by pressing Shift Command A, and then select this region, the MIDI region, like I have done here. So first we're going to rename the region so we can easily identify it later. So in the inspector region parameter box, we're going to double click the name of the region and enter piano. Okay, so here we go. Up here we're going to double click it and we're going to call it piano. Okay, and now we can see that that is also mirrored in the actual region itself. There are other ways to name that region. We'll go through that in other sessions. Okay, so now we're going to choose the quantize value, which determines the resolution of the grid used to quantize the notes. So we're going to set the quantize parameter to 1/8 note. So up here in our quantize resolution box, we're going to select it to 1/8 note. Okay, and all the MIDI notes now you may have seen snap to the nearest 8th note. If I just take that off again, go to quantization, take it off, you'll see that some of those notes just change slightly. If I'd have played it a little bit more out of time, then you see more of a shift. So all the MIDI notes snap to the nearest 8th region, sorry, the nearest 8th note, because we'd set the quantize to 1/8 note. Okay, so as we can see, there's one bar, and 1/4 is there, and 1/8 is there. So it snaps to the nearest 1/8 bar, wherever that is, there, etc. And if it was 16ths, it'd be this line here. Okay, so now if we listen back to it, it's a bit more in time. And you know, this is where the drum beat in the background comes in. We can hear that it's dead in time now. Okay, so you know, it's great that we can put things in time. And in Logic, quantizing is a non-destructive operation, which means it doesn't affect the actual you know, any files itself. We can always go back, like I just did, and turn it off and choose a different resolution, and you know, and we can, you know, do that as many times as we want, and it won't affect the original performance if we don't want it to. So with the piano region selected, we're going to open the quantize menu and select off. Okay, so that turns it off. Go back to what we had before. So from the quantize parameter menu, we're going to choose 1/8 again. Go back to 1/8 note, and we can see obviously that takes it back to what we had before. But we can set a quantize grid that's a default, so that when we actually play notes in, they actually just snap to the grid straight away, which is in some situations, especially if you're not a proficient piano player or you know, musician, then that can be, you know, really helpful. Okay, so if we click anywhere in the background of the arrange area, if I just get rid of the piano rollers by pressing P, and then I click anywhere in the background of the arrange area there to deselect all. So all regions are deselected. And the region parameter box now displays the MIDI through settings. So you can see it says MIDI through. Okay, just up here in the parameter region box, MIDI through. The MIDI through parameter settings are automatically to apply to any new media region that you record in this project. So anything that we do from now on, it snaps to that particular grid that we set. Okay, so we're going to set the quantize, the MIDI through quantize parameter to 1/16th note. So there, 1/16th note. And we're going to select the piano region again, and the region parameter box displays the region's name and settings, like we just had. You can see the quantize setting you applied to the region in the previous exercise is 1/8th note. It hasn't affected that because we've already played it. So we're going to delete that region now. So we're going to press delete or backspace while that region is selected, and that will delete that region. Okay, we're going to go back to the beginning of the track, and we're going to click record or press R again on the keyboard, and we're going to record a new simple bass line as you did previously, and then stop the recording. So we're going to go back into that. I'm going to press R, and then I'm going to press the caps lock to bring up my MIDI keyboard, and we're going to do that again. Okay, now we can see that what's happened is Logic has quantized that new region to 1/16th note, and if you play that back we can hear that it's in time. Okay, not the best thing you've ever heard, but you get my drift. That's what it does. Okay, so the notes have immediately snapped to the nearest 1/16th note, which if we look in the piano roll editor, if I click in the background and I press Command A to select all, and I press Z, then I'll leave it like that because they're highlighted, we can see them better. Obviously, you can change the colours of the background of this by going into the view in the local area, local media, local menu, and going to where have we got it? Colours, piano roll colours. There we go. And we can check. At the moment, I've got that as on green, but I can choose whatever I want. So let's say we go back to white. Okay, and then just close that, and now we can see things maybe a little bit with a little bit more contrast. And we can see that all the notes are snapped to the nearest 16th note. Okay, so there we have it. And if I now select this to go back to off, they will immediately go back to their original positions. So again, just because we set it as default before doesn't mean it's going to be that it's destructive. It's still non-destructive. Okay, so now we're going to look at merging recordings into a MIDI region. So sometimes you may want to record a MIDI performance in several passes. For example, when recording piano, you can only record the left hand and then the right hand. You can record the left hand and then record the right hand in a second pass without having to play both of them at the same time, which is especially useful for me with my tiny little keyboard here, where it's very, very difficult for me to play much at all with two hands anyway. So we can do that, in a cycle record each time it goes around, each time it passes. Or when recording drums, you can record the kick drum in the first pass, the snare in the second, and the hi-hat in the third, etc, 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 building up drum lines like this. So in Logic, when recording MIDI events on top of an existing MIDI region, you can choose to merge the new events with the existing ones, and that's what we're going to do next. So in the previous exercise, you recorded a simple bass line onto a piano track. Now we're going to play chords as you listen to the bass line and record the new chords inside the same MIDI region. So first we'll need to choose the correct recording setting to merge your new recording with the selected region. In the toolbar, we're going to click the Settings button up here, and we're going to choose Recording, which you'll notice that I also earlier entered by going down here and holding down the record button. We can also go to it from here and select any of those different tabs from up here. So we're going to choose recording, and then under MIDI, which is just here, we're going to choose sorry, it's in the wrong point there. I think where we actually need to go is to this recording point down here, or we can go to our MIDI parts up here as well. Okay, but we're going to go via this one down here. It should be the same one. For some reason, it wasn't showing me the same elements. Okay, but in here, under the recording tab, we can see MIDI here, and we've got overlapping regions, overlapping recordings. Okay, and we're going to from the drop-down menu, we need to select merge with selected regions. So there we go, merge with selected regions. Now you only have to select the existing MIDI region before recording, and the new notes will be recorded inside the selected region. So we're going to make sure the piano region is selected. Just close this first. We can see the piano region selected. I'm just going to press P again to get rid of the piano roll editor. Click in the background to make sure that only that region is selected. So I can select that again. Okay. So only that region is selected. We're going to go back to the beginning, and we're going to start recording, and we're going to try to play some chords that complement the bass line you just recorded previously. Now a chord is a free note. A simple chord is just contains 3 notes. So I'm going to play some chords, some random notes. I'm doing this in the key of C, so I'm only using I'm not using any sharps or flats. I'm just going to place some notes underneath these notes to play some chords. So I'm just going to go round twice, and each time I'm going to put in some new notes so that we will have some chords playing. Okay, so I'm just going to do that now. So here we go into record. Bring this up. Okay, we've done that now. So I'm going to go around again, and I'm going to record some more notes into that region. So we're going to have to take that off, go back to the start, and we're going to record some more notes. So I'll go hit record again. Okay, there we go. So now if we look into that, we can see, if we double click into that or press P, and then we zoom into all of those notes, we can see some chords, sections where there are more than one note playing on top of each other. Again, not the best thing I've ever done. There you go. I might want to quantize that now. If I quantize it to 1/8 note, then some of those notes are reined in where the performance wasn't so good. And if I want to just hear some chords together, I might want to quantize that to 1/4 note and bring those notes a little bit more in together and see how that sounds. Terrible. Okay, but I can go back to my previous position quite easily. And obviously this is another way that we can use quantizing to create new compositions or make the notes play in ways that we wasn't expecting. But anyway, the point is that's how you can record more than one note at a time and build it up. Obviously, you'll want it to sound a little bit more pleasant than what I just did, but you know, that's down to you and your experimentalism. So what we're going to do now is look at merging recordings in cycle mode. You may have noticed that each time I did that, I had to then go back to start and start it again. But what we can actually do is we can set the cycle mode. So, okay, recording in cycle mode allows you to continuously repeat the same section, like I just did, that whole section, and only record new events when you're ready. So this is really useful when recording a drum pattern, for example. So when repeating a 1 bar or 2 bar section, you can add a new element to the patterns during each pass of the cycle whilst listening to everything that you previously recorded. Instead of going back to the start like I just did and then pressing it again. When you're recording in cycle mode, notes recorded in all consecutive passes of the cycle are merged into a single MIDI region. So in this exercise, you're going to use cycle mode to record some drums, first recording the kick, and then the snare, and then the hi-hat. So in the arrange area, we're going to mute both existing tracks. I'm going to press P to get rid of piano relator, and I'm going to mute both of those tracks. Just there. Remember that you can click the mute button on the first track header and then drag the mouse down if you wanted to. So I could just drag that down and it would do the same thing. At the top of the track list, we're going to click the new tracks button and start a new track. And we're going to choose one software instrument track. So we go one software instrument track there. And there we go. It's in. And this time we're going to insert the software instrument track in the inspector on the arranged channel strip. So just over here where we looked before. So we're going to go there. We're going to choose Ultra Beat, the Ultra Beat drum synth stereo. Okay, and we got the Ultra Beat interface appears. Okay, and it's slotted into our channel strip now. We can see it in there. It says Ultra Beat. Okay, and we're in the interface. Let's just close that window for a start. For now, we're going to use Ultra Beat to produce drum sounds as you record MIDI in cycle mode. But later on, when you're looking at programming drums, we're going to use the Ultra Beat interface to program drums in more detail, actually within the interface. But now we're just going to use the sounds. So, okay. We notice the white halo around the channel strip there. Around the plugin in the channel strip. That indicates that the selected section of the channel strip whose settings are automatically displayed in the library. So the library now displays the Ultra Beat settings, we can see up here. In the library, we're going to choose 01 Drum Kits Funk Boogie Kit. So 01 Drum Kits and then Funk Boogie Kit. And we're going to wait a few seconds while Ultra Beat loads the kit. Mine's loaded pretty quickly, and yours may come up and show a little blue line to show how it's loading the sounds. Okay. When it's loaded, the drum kit is displayed on the track 3 header and in the arrange area, so we can see it. Okay. Okay, so that's where we are. So let's go back to the beginning. Selecting a software instrument track automatically record enables it, but the instrument is not always in live mode. An instrument in live mode requires more CPU resources. When an instrument is not in live mode, the first note you play will take about 100 milliseconds to trigger the instrument, which is then placed in live mode. So you can put an instrument in live mode by sending any MIDI event to it. So we know it's not in live mode because it says record ready, but it's not quite ready yet, and you'll see what I mean in a minute. So if I play any note, then suddenly the record ready button goes fully red and we know that it's live, and that way we know that any first notes we play, you know, will sound straight away and won't take time to load. Okay. So we're going to first locate the notes on your controller keyboard that trigger the kick, snare and hi-hat. So for me, if I remember rightly. I think this note, if it's C1, I need to go to to the first octave. So here I need to hit 4 on my keyboard. That'll take me there. And now if I hit the C note here, which is the A button, that's the kick note. And over here, I think the E is the which is the D key on my keyboard. Is the snare, and F sharp is the hi-hat. Okay, so if we play the C note there, we can see it in our MIDI display down here again. It says C1. Okay, so if it doesn't show C1, we're going to need to move the octave up and down on your keyboard. So in front of you on your MIDI keyboard, you will see 2 arrows and a display, and it says octave, and it needs to go up and down an octave until that C note right at the start on the far left of your keyboard plays that kick note. Okay, so just if you sort that out, when you trigger a kick with a C1 note, locate the other note two notes to the right. Basically, mine was on the D there, but for you it's just two white notes to the right. Okay. In the bar ruler, we're going to click the cycle area here. So I'm just going to get rid of that for a second. We're going to click the cycle region there, and it goes green. Okay. So I'm just going to zoom out using my slider down here a little bit so we can see the whole of that cycle region. We're going to resize the cycle area so it spans 1 bar starting at the beginning of the song. So just 1 bar, not 8 bars like I've got there, just 1 bar there. Okay, we're going to record the drums one at a time. So if we click in the background of the arrange area to deselect all, the region parameter box displays the MIDI through parameters again. And here, remember we had it set to 1/16 bar there. We're going to set it to 1/8 note. Okay, we're going to start recording in a minute, and you'll hear well, I'm going to hear an 8-beat counting. If you've got yours set to 1 bar counting, it will only be 4 beats before the playhead reaches the beginning of the cycle area. We're going to play 2 C1 notes, 1 on the first beat and 1 on the third beat. In the piano roll editor's bar ruler, the first beat is on 1 and the third beat is on 1.3. Which is bar 1, beat 3. Okay. So let's just do that. So recording on the first beat and the third beat. So here we go. Okay. If this happens, like you've just seen here, what we need to do is resize that region. Oh, we need to just select this one region and resize it back to the start of bar 1, and then grab where it says 0 here and just pull that back so it starts at bar 1 again. The reason why it done that is because it thought that I was starting a beat just before, because I played too quickly, it started the beat before bar 1 and therefore jumped forward and gave me extra space, thinking that I wanted to start the track sooner, but I didn't. If I go into my area here, I can press Control Alt and zoom in to that region just to make sure that those beats, are starting in the right place, which we can see that they are 1.1 and 1.3. The fact that they're different lengths doesn't really matter. They're triggering an audio sample, and when Logic does that, especially with drum beats, it will just play the whole sample. It doesn't matter about these lengths, particularly for these particular notes, not for drum notes. Not drum beats, rather. Okay. So when a new cycle begins, you can hear the drum notes play just as you'd recorded them, and notice that the notes snap to the nearest 1/8 bar. That's why they're always, they're in time there. So I'm just going to zoom out a little bit on this. We can see that whole bar. Okay, and I'm going to go into record again, and this time I'm going to play the the snare drum, and I'm going to play the snare drum in a couple of places. Okay, so the first, I'm just going to go through what happens here. So you've got all the time in the world, obviously, before you continue to record. I don't have to continue to record. I can stop and come back to say anything I like. As long as you don't play anything, there are no MIDI events, and Logic keeps cycling over the existing region, playing back your previous recordings. If you feel the need to practice the snare before recording, you can return to play mode while cycling continues. So we can stop and just go into play. And we can practice it there, just by pressing it there. Okay, and it's not recording. So on your MIDI keyboard, we're going to locate the snare, which I've done there, and you should have already, and practice a snare pattern. Try to hit the snare on beats 2 and 4. So I'm going to do that again. I'm going to record. And we can hear immediately that it's quantized those to those beats. Okay, so so if we click the drum region on track 3 to select it, you can start recording the snare whenever you want, and we can use the same techniques to record the hi-hat on every 8th note in the same MIDI region. And again, I can feel confident because it's going to quantize it. I've already set the quantizing for default for this. I'm going to play it on every 8th note. So there's going to be 8 bars, 8 beats in that one bar on every 8th note. So here we go. There we go, and we can see that that's all in time. I made a little bit of a mistake there where I played 2 instead of 1, but I can just select that and delete it. There we go. And we can see that they're on every 8 beats there. I've got 1 missing on the end there, but that's because it's this bar, it's this note here. When it gets to the end, goes back to the start. Here we go. Perfectly in time, and really, really easy to do. Okay, so the merge MIDI recording techniques you've used in the previous exercises provide a lot of flexibility rather, and allow you to take your time recording a single part of a performance in your own time. Okay, so obviously, we all may have particular instruments we're good at, but this way we can record lots of different instruments, and you can change things. For example, if you're recording a violin or a cello as a software instrument track, then on a different pass of the cycle record, you can record the movements of the pitch bend wheel to add vibrato to some of the notes. For example, it's not just whether the notes are playing, you can actually add in a vibrato in it as well once you've played the notes in. So practice that as well. I can't do it on my keyboard because I've just got this rubbish one here, but you can with your modulation and pitch wheels. So try it out. Okay, and so feel free to do that for a little while, and then come back, and we're going to look at recording MIDI takes. Okay, so when you want to nail a performance or experiment with various musical ideas, you can record different takes and later choose the best one. So, like what we looked at before, or you may have looked at before with editing audio, recording takes, we can do that with MIDI as well. The techniques used to record MIDI takes are similar to the techniques you use to record audio. So you can record over an existing MIDI region, or you can choose cycle recording to record 1 take for each pass of the cycle. So we just had MIDI regions recording being recorded in the same MIDI events being recorded in the same region, but we can record different takes altogether. So cycle mode should be turned on. Let's record takes in cycle mode and experiment using different melodies for a bass line. So in the transport bar, we're going to hold down the record button and choose recording settings, like I did before, like so. And in the media area, we're going to, from the overlapping recordings section here, in this pop-up menu, we're going to choose create take folders. Okay, and just close that. In the arrange area, unmute track 1, drums audio 1, and mute track 3, this track here. So we're going to mute that, and we're going to go up, and we're going to unmute track 1. Okay, just take off the piano roller for the moment, clicking the background in the arrange area. So this one up here, track 1, is unmuted. Okay, so we're going to create a new software instrument track and open the library. So in the library, we're going to choose, we're going to put it down below this one here. And we're going to create, so if we select this track header and we press new track, it will record one below that. So we're going to create a new software instrument track there. And make sure our open library is selected. Create. Okay, and over here in our library, we're going to choose 03 bass, 02 electric bass, like so, and then aggressive fretless. And you can see it's loading the audio files associated with that particular software instrument track. Okay, so we can start recording and play a different melody for each pass of the cycle until you have 3 or 4 takes. Okay, so I'm just going to do this once or twice. I'll do it 3 times just for that first cycle region there of 1 bar. Okay, so here we go. Okay, probably recorded a few more than I needed to there, and as you can see, I've got the same problem here, so I'm just going to resize that back to there, which I'm going to have to do for all of the tracks now, because some of them have gone back there, but it won't let me do it for all of the tracks. So what I'm going to need to do in this particular instance is quickly enter my tool menu by pressing escape, and come out of there, obviously. Press my escape bar, I'm going to choose scissor tool, and I'm just going to snip that there, and then select that and delete that. Okay, and then I'm going to drag this back to area 1 up here and readjust my cycle region. All very messy, and then drag this back to there. Okay. Okay, so I've just shown you how to disclose that disclose triangle to see all the takes that I just made, and there they are. And obviously, the one that is being displayed is the last one I did, which is this one. Okay, and we can go through and preview any of those, just like we did with the audio, just like you can with audio, just selecting them and listening back to them like that. Okay. So a MIDI take is recorded for each pass of the cycle where you play MIDI notes. If you don't play anything for a whole cycle, no take is recorded. The takes are placed into the take folder, as we can see. When a new cycle begins, the take you just recorded is automatically muted. So you can listen to it by switching to the play mode. Okay, so obviously we just do that by pressing play. And we're in play mode. Okay, so we're going to open the take folder and choose the take you want to hear. So that one's only got 1 note in it, because I played over the notes. But this one looks quite interesting. Let's play that one. Okay, and it's quantized to 1/8 note. Sounds lovely. Okay. You can also double click the take folder to open it, and click the take you want to hear. Just by pressing, just by double clicking that. So I'll double click it, and then I can just click any one I want to hear from there, and that's one easy way to do it. So we're going to stop playback and take off cycle mode. So I'm going to click into it there, or press C on my keyboard. Okay, now we're going to look at using punch recording. Okay, so you can use the punch on the fly and auto punch techniques you've learned for audio recording to punch on MIDI recordings. So the only difference here is that you'll have to turn on the replace mode. In the next exercise, we're going to record a piano performance and then use both the replace and auto punch modes to re-record a section of the performance. So we're going to mute the aggressive fretless track. Just here, I'm going to do that, and I'm going to mute that. Take it off live mode because we don't need it on live mode. And we're going to select and unmute the Suitcase V2 track just up here. Select it and unmute it. Let's put it in live mode. Okay. So once you click a track header, you'll see that it will highlight and select all of the regions on that track. So that's what we just did. But that was rubbish, so I'm just going to delete it. Haha. All the selected MIDI regions are deleted in one shot. I'm going to press record and play the keyboard for 4 or 5 bars and then stop recording. And we're going to then correct a bar of that performance. So just going to go into record something arbitrary. Here we go. Okay, again, nowhere near my best work. So, we got something recorded. Lots of things in there we want to replace because they weren't played very well, like this section here. Excellent. Okay, so that's what we're going to do. So we're going to correct a bar of that performance, but we need to click the auto punch and replace buttons. We're just down here. There we go, that's the auto punch button in the piano and the transport bar, and that's the replace button down there. You can know that because if I hover over it, it come up saying replace. So auto punch and replace. In order to merge the new events, you're going to record over the auto punch area with the existing region on the track. You need to change your recording settings back to the default settings. Okay, so I'm going to hold down the record button, select recording settings again. In the MIDI area, we're going to choose from the overlapping recordings pop-up, merge only in cycle record. Just like that. In the bar ruler, I'm just going to close that now. So in the bar ruler, adjust the auto punch area around the section of piano that you want to record over. So my section is this section. Definitely want to record over that. What a load of rubbish. And I can just adjust that to wherever I want. It's only going to record here. Okay, so make sure the auto punch area is over a section of the piano you want to, the piano performance you captured in the previous exercise that you want to get rid of. When you go back to the beginning of the project and make sure the Suitcase V2 track is still record enabled, which we can see it is. It's in live mode. And we're going to click the record button and start playing right away. Okay. On the piano track, the selection below the auto punch area is deleted. Okay, so here we go. Okay, it deletes it straight away and has replaced it with what we've got there. Okay, what I just recorded. So it has replaced it. It's auto punched in, but it's replaced what was there before. Okay, so you can hear the notes you are playing over the previous recording, but only the notes played within the auto punch area are recorded inside the MIDI region. Okay, that's one way we can do that. And obviously, just to turn it off, we can turn that off there. And if I don't like the fact that they are separate regions there, I want to make it back to one region, I can choose Escape, come out of there, choose Escape, and I'm going to choose the glue tool. I'm going to hold down the Shift button, and I'm going to glue the regions next to it, to glue those all back together. And now I should have a region sound much better. Okay, so that's how we can correct individual areas, individual takes by recording over them again. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to look at using the step input recording function. So instead of recording a real-time performance, you can record notes one at a time. In step input mode, you position the playhead and play a note or a chord on your MIDI keyboard. The notes are recorded and the playhead moves one step ahead, waiting for the next notes. So this mode is very useful for recording complex musical phrases that you can't perform in real time, such as complicated chord progressions or just really fast arpeggios, which is something that's used a lot in dance music, for example. So we're going to select the Suitcase V2 track. I'm going to press delete again. Oh no. And all the regions are deleted. You start by creating an empty MIDI region using the pencil tool, which we can see is the command, well, it isn't the command tool at the moment, but I can make it the command tool by pressing Escape and holding down Command and selecting pencil tool, and that sets it up here as my command tool, as you can see up here. So that means whenever I press Command here, it brings that up, and I'm just going to do that. I'm going to hold down Command and select that in the first region there, and it creates an empty region. Okay, so we're going to resize the region so it's 4 bars long. We go down to the bottom here, we're going to resize it so it's 4 bars long up to bar 5. Yeah, so bars 1, 2, 3 and 4. And at the upper left of the piano roll editor, which we're going to access by pressing P on our keyboards, we're going to click the MIDI in button, which is this button here, okay, so that it lights up like this. Okay. So the button turns red and the MIDI step input recording mode is turned on. Okay, just show you that again. It's just there. Okay, we can go to the beginning of the project. I'm going to play a single note on my keyboard. I'll bring my keyboard up first, play a single note. There we go. Where is that note? I know it's there somewhere. There it is. Down there. It's recorded one note, which it puts on the first bar, and then puts the playhead directly after that. So that's a 16th note, and the playhead moves forward 1/16th note. So directly after that, it's waiting for the next note to be recorded. The recorded note is a pitch and velocity of the note you just played. For me, that was, if we select it, we can see what note that is. It's E1. Okay. So if you ever want to know, it also says up here what note you're on at any one time. So we can just read from there that we're on E1 at bar 111. Okay. So in the transport bar, we're going to click the division setting and drag down until it reads 1/8. So here, down here, it says 1/16. We're going to drag it down until it says 1/8 there. In the piano roll editor, the grid resolution is the same as the division setting. The vertical grid lines are now placed at 1/8 note intervals, as you can see. It's less resolution. If I just show you that again, go back up to 16 or even higher, it changes. We're going to come back down to 8. So it only shows 8/8. So we're going to play a chord. So I'm going to just bring up my MIDI keyboard, play a chord. There we go. And there you go. It's played 1/8 which is 2 times a 16th, forward in of that chord. Okay, and that's how we enter notes. So they just, one after each other, and we choose the division. Okay, so it's also moved forward an 8th note again, because if I play another chord in, oops, didn't want to go into the global tracks there. If I want to play another note in, it will do the same. Okay, add in another note. Okay, but we don't want that. I'm just going to go back to there. Okay, you can also use the step input keyboard to exercise more control over your step input recordings. So from the main menu bar, we're going to choose Options, Step Input Recording. So I'm here, Step Input Recording. That brings up our step input keyboard. Okay, we can see here we got our note lengths. At the moment, we got 1/16th note selected. Okay. This is called the floating step input keyboard. And the selected note length button overrides the divisions setting in the transport bar. So if I press any one of these notes, we'll get a 16th note, not an 8th note. Okay, so we'll play a note by entering my keyboard first. And we can see there it's played a 16th note. If I just undid that and then selected crotchet or a quarter note and then played a note in, or selected a note here, whichever way I want to do it, it plays in a quarter note, and the playhead moves forward a quarter note. So if you were recording a quarter note pattern and wanted to record a single half note, you could click the half note button, record your half note, and then click the quarter note button again to record the next quarter note. An easier way to do this is to use the sustain insert note button. So we're going to play a note and hold down the key on your MIDI keyboard. So let's bring that up again and play a note. There we go. So another quarter note is recording, even though I played it for much longer. You need to hold down the MIDI key for the next step so that the quarter note you are recording remains selected in the piano roll editor. Okay. You can also release the key on your MIDI keyboard and click the inserted note to select it. So on the step input keyboard, we're going to click the sustain insert notes button. Okay, so if I just move that, that's this button here. Sustain insert notes, like that. Okay. So the selected note is lengthened by a quarter note. I'll just move that. Sorry, if you select a note first and then we press this, it's then sustained by a quarter note again. So it's now half a note. You can click the sustain insert notes button several times to lengthen the note, to lengthen the selected notes by the current step length. Okay, so let's record quarter notes starting on bar 2. So with the pointer positioned over the lower half of the piano roll bar, bar ruler rather, on bar 2, we're going to hold down the mouse button. So I'm just going to move that up there. And we're going to play 3 notes one at a time. Okay, so let's play those. There they are. On the step input keyboard, we're going to click the sustain insert notes. Okay, and what happens is it moves forward. Because we haven't got anything selected, it just moves forward by the selection that we had before, which is 1 note. So it moves forward by a note, by a quarter note rather. When no notes are selected, the sustain insert notes button makes the playhead move 1 step ahead, and you can resume your step input recording. So we're going to try using step input recording techniques to record fast 1/16th note arpeggios or even crazy chord patterns. Now, with a little experimentation, you can quickly end up with really cool musical phrases that you couldn't possibly play live. Okay, so you're going to click the MIDI in button to turn off step input recording and close the step input keyboard once you've done that. Okay, but have a go. So if I play this at 1/16th note and I play them in like that, close that down. If I just click in there, select all, press Z, we can see those crazy notes there, and we got something different. Okay, so those are the main ways that we can record MIDI in Logic. Okay, so please do try some of those out, and come back to this video if you can't remember any of that. But once you've got those tools there, you're pretty much sorted for recording MIDI. The next thing you need to do is look at programming and editing MIDI in Logic to see how the ways in which we can actually manipulate all of those events in more complex ways to create more lifelike performances. Okay, so if you want to watch that video, you go back into the Logic tutorials folder and you can find the programming and editing MIDI video and watch that. But please do try some of these things out first, okay, to get used to them, okay, and then you can move on. Okay, any questions at all, please just come and find me. If I'm in the room and you're with me right now, just ask me any questions that you've got about that, okay.